Hey everyone, welcome to GTM Secrets. Stephen Lowisz here. Talk about everything go-to-market, sales, marketing, product marketing, brand marketing, RevOps, you name it, doesn't matter. Today I have Zach over at Octave on the line here, and we were kind of riffing before we even got on here. I think, Zach, you and I are going to have a great chat. We share some of the same beliefs about sales right now. But Zach, if you don't mind, give a little bit of background on yourself.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we're gonna have fun today. Started Octave a little over 2 years ago, but I guess my background's been in the trenches carrying a bag for a long time. So 15 years ago, I was hammering the phones as an SDR at LinkedIn, and getting my learning how this world works under the pressure of a quota. So I think that's probably like what I consider myself more than anything is I will be a journeyman sales guy for life. But yeah, we started Octave a few years ago, obviously getting really excited about capabilities of generative AI. But I think like what got us excited, and we're trying to do something a little different maybe, is, I think the magic of generative AI isn't just the parlor trick of the words on the page, although that might be like the output we want to get to, but like, how do we rethink like the unstructured data? There's kind of like this big mess of like ideas that every seller kind of needs to have like loaded in their brain to be successful. And like we try and enable people with meetings and kickoffs and LMS tools and like nothing works. And like your story is getting increasingly important in this kind of new era we're getting into. And it's like, it's really hard to activate like precise messaging, and how do we help customers? What are their pains? And like really speak to them in their language. So anyways, I'm babbling on here, but like that's what gets us excited.
No, I like it. So first, let's go off what I think we both said we agree on. AI SDRs are stupid.
Right.
I don't really pull any punches. I think that they are one of the worst things to ever happen to sales. You can obviously get a metric crap ton of funding if you say, hey, I have an AI SDR, look at X, and then to be repetitive, AI SDR. I don't think there's any credibility in them. I think it adds to the spam factor. I think maybe you can pump out volume, but you can already do that.
Yeah.
What's your thought? Because you're kind of the antithesis, right? You're, hey, let's take a really intelligent approach, not just spam the living shit out of everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, man, we are spiritually aligned here. I think it's awesome. It's kind of funny. It's like we came out of like the predictable revenue era, and like what was like the biggest lesson learned was like all these SCRs, all this inefficient growth, blah, blah. And it's like then the first thing that emerges in first wave of generative AI is like, oh, this role that we're not sure should exist. Let's recreate it in a black box magic button that's somehow going to work and change everything. And like, yeah.
Well said.
It appears to be, like, let's see, I wish everyone got speed, but like, I don't hear anybody that's like, I'm in love with this solution and it changed anything for us. I think there's still a lot of hope, right? Because if it worked, holy shit, wouldn't that be magical,
Yeah.
But it doesn't. And I think I'd say like, from my perspective, like, I guess to maybe back up the conjecture a little bit is like, the fundamental problem is they all view the world the same way. Or they're all buying the same. They're buying Apollo and Cognizant and all the same data, and they're just going, "That's the universe that exists." And now we just want to shove your company into it. And I guess, self-serving, but like our belief is like, hey, like the most important like thing is you. Like, what's your DA? Like that's the most important piece of data. Like firmographic characteristics and emails and phone number, like that all exists, but like, why the hell does your company exist? What do you do? Who do you care about? Like, you should start from there, not start from like, here's the ocean, let's just fucking boil it. Excuse my French.
Oh, I don't care. You can't offend me. So I agree. And I think furthermore, when you look at all of these AI SDRs, you're right. They are buying the same data. They're all using GPT and Perplexity and all of these, right? That's the way that they all think. Okay. In sales, you intentionally want to stand out from anybody else. And you inherently, by using AI, in aggregate, making what everyone else has already said, read, and written, right? I don't think it makes sense. Now, I think there's two more pieces, though. One, There are some AI SDRs that actually make calls now. X may be one, I don't recall. But what's funny is you have to start the phone out with, hey, I'm an AI assistant, or whatever term you want to put on it legally, to my understanding. And then on the email side, to your point, you're just spamming everybody. And I think it takes away from the people that are actually creating really quality, well-crafted emails, LinkedIn messages, etc. And they're getting sent to the trash bin as well, just because that person is annoyed to no frickin' end.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody has all the data that you do, like their persona, how they're going to respond. The example that you gave me before was, instead of saying, here's how I'm going to target FinServe, no, here's how I'm going to target small credit unions, here's how I'm going to tackle insurance, et cetera, right? What do you do with that? Because you're still in the crowded, noisy BS market full of your competitors spamming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's hard. There's no magic bullet, right? I think the reality is like there's some degree of like what's happening is kind of good, right? Like the quality bar is raised. Like Google and Microsoft are fundamentally like raising the bar. You don't get to get away with bullshit anymore. Like you have to be unique and specific. And the AI SDRs are more or less like they're replicating this kind of like infantry and artillery, like let's march onto the battlefield with numbers and see if we can overwhelm you. And like, that doesn't work. Like you need, we're in the era of it's SEAL Team 6, like get your night vision sniper rifle, your drones, right? And so there are like, I guess some technical aspects of deliverability and like uniqueness and variation. Like Google is using their own AI as well of like, hey, it's very easy for them now to, even if you're doing your liquid spin tax and all this crap, like they can fingerprint that stuff really easily. Then, first person that spams it, that whole campaign's toast. There's all that. But like to get more back to your question, I think what really like drives engagement is like, I think the problem is like, there's a lot of solutions that are like pursuing this. They're trying to replicate like the human. I always think it's good on the call. They have to say you're an AI, because otherwise they're all kind of like going down this path where like you're starting the engagement from a point of like, I'm trying to trick you, which is like, I'm fundamentally like, you can't trust me right away. And like, what like we're trying to do, again, not to make it about ourselves. Like, I think the most important thing is like, how do you just be authentic with somebody? And how do you make them think it doesn't matter if AI wrote this or a human? Who cares? You just want the person on the other end to be receiving a message that they go like, I know why I got this. Like, there's no question mark. There's no riddle I need to solve. I'm like, what the hell are they trying to sell me? And why are they talking to me? Right? Like, it should be the goal, is like deliver valuable, specific information where the person is just going like, okay, I got it. I know I got this. I'm interested or not. And they're not pissing me off because they're right. It was meant for me. And like, that's the bar. And I think if you keep that as the bar, you're going to stay ahead of the pack, because most people still are they're doing it the old way. And they're just trying to rush the field, and that ain't going to work.
Right. So the way that you do, and I want you to correct me here in a second, but to my understanding, what you do better than anyone is going to be dialing in that persona and how you reach them. So my old school way of doing it is on Airtable, having a sheet for industry and as niche as possible, having a sheet for size, because an enterprise is going to respond very differently to, than a SMB. All these different factors, different titles, etc. VP of marketing responds differently than director of demand gen. And then I would create what I would call permutation testing. And this was horrible, but coming up with what I would call hooks, values, and asks, basically, the opener, the value, and then, hey, do shit, right? And then I would come up with just a crap ton of variations and try to see what sticks out of that. My understanding of what you're doing is that you are doing that, but you're automating the living hell out of that. Am I anywhere in the right field?
We're on a seal. We're playing. We're having fun. Yeah, I would say that. What I would add to that is, I guess, like, I guess it sounds cheesy to be like our secret sauce or whatever, but like, there's no, we're not building our own LLM, right? Like, we're using Gemini and Claude and GPT and now DeepSeek, and like, we're going to continue using all those models.
Wait, you said you are using DeepSeek or are not?
We are.
Okay.
We are, guess what I was getting to is like our IP, like what we're trying to help companies do. And what's kind of interesting is like, I think it's like a little counterintuitive of like, people assume like sales is kind of like, that's like paint by numbers. Like you guys are all screwed because like the open AI is going to figure that out. And it's like actually kind of wrong. Like they're much better at, like the hard shit. Like they're much better at organic chemistry because like there's 1,000 organic chemistry textbooks, right? Read and like there's actual ground truth. The challenge in go to market, like what you and I deal with, is like it's kind of quantum. Like what worked a year ago doesn't work today. The laws of gravity have changed and like they're always in flux. And it's not written down anywhere. Like how does a persona relate to a use case, relate to a pain point, relate to a reference customer and a piece of social proof, right? That like doesn't exist. And it's kind of this, squishy web that like every person is kind of like figuring out, right? And like you can kind of do it, but it's like it's tribal knowledge. So this is again a super roundabout way of getting your question. That's kind of what we're doing. So like yes, there is some version of like that Airtable you created where it's like, there's all these permutations, and like what we've built, I guess, is a really a more sophisticated, robust way of like helping you extract that. Like, okay, what are your personas? What are the use cases? What are the value props? And like we're kind of building that knowledge graph of like, okay, now here's that lens we view the world through, and then underneath that, we're squeezing more out of the models because we have that with like, we're telling them, here's how you think, where they don't, they're inherently like very bad at sales because all they've read is whatever you could go find on.
Playing Challenger.
Right. They haven't seen good sales. They don't know what happens in phone conversations and in meetings and in private communications. Right. So they're just like, they suck at it. And like, I don't think they're going to get the foundation models aren't going to get better anytime soon. So we're trying to like, how do we give them a framework for viewing the world that's specific to your business? Like everybody's creating their own kind of unique framework. And then out of that, we're going, the example.
It would be pretty cool if you could take sales demos and conversations and ingest them into something like what you're doing.
Makes sense.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we want to be like, we want to make it really easy for you to just go, Octave, like here's a bunch about me, huck it over the fence at us. Here's some call recordings. Here's a few messaging docs we cranked out. Here's a few case studies. Here's our website, and we help you like build that matrix. Right?
I'm gonna go get a Google Workspace account just so I can sign up for you guys. It's
high praise. Thank you.
The one thing that I hate about you is that you don't take Office accounts. I'm gonna go get a Google Space.
For you, the roadmap just got accelerated.
I appreciate it. That's cool. Now, here's I think one of the challenges, and I think your answer is going to be Clay. But take our data. So we're more top of funnel, right? We de-anonymize contacts, we score them. All right, these companies and more specifically, these people were on your site. You should target them. I get asked, what do you do with that? Okay, so then my typical answer is, well, email nurturing, ad retargeting, warm outreach, because they already know about you, etc. Right? And if you want to use AI, go use, Clay, which we integrate with. Mm-hmm. Okay, then I want to use a tool like yours. Or I mentioned to you before another tool called Bird Dog, which does account planning. Mm-hmm. And I want to combine these. All of them are decently expensive tools. I need to aggregate all of them. How do I do that? Is it literally Clay? Is it coming up with a GTM engineer, as the new title is called? I would call it RevOps, but like, what do you do with all this siloed data?
I think, your suspicions are correct. Clay, or at least right now is, look, at least for us, our most successful customers, and successful in terms of like, happy with us, but I mean that more generally of like they're driving positive outcomes and like they're increasing the efficiency, velocity, and output of their demand gen and outbound efforts. Yeah, Clay is, they're the leader of the pack of like, it's a new paradigm, right? Like you can't give these tools you can't give your tool to a sales rep. Like they don't use it, and like our tool similar, like a sales rep could, but like where we're most powerful is in this like more a part of a like orchestration, a part of a pipeline, a part of a workflow. And I'd say Clay has emerged of like, they are the leader because they give you lots of facets to like, yeah, I can stitch together 12 different tools. Yeah, it's complex. There's a learning curve. You need to be a go-to-market engineer or some type of person that has some of those like hands-on keyboard dexterity to like get this done. But the beauty is like you could stitch together like pretty elegant and intricate, like we can take your data and you can enrich it with other stuff. Then you can pass it to our agents and we can go, oh, okay, I know you are visiting a high intent page. Like, what's the URL of that page? What's the content on that page? Okay, we can take that in and mix that with our like, okay, now let's figure out more about this person, their company, their background. What version of the story would we tell them mated with that like intent? Oh, they were looking at a API docs page or whatever, and then like extrude that version of the story out, pass that back into Clay, and then, hey, you want that picked up in a sequencer or LinkedIn automation, and like that's like where we're seeing like people building stuff like that like you can still drive results in channels that people are calling dead, like they are. You just like, again, like the bar has risen. You got to do a lot more.
Can I just say, as you know, we're both founders of VC-backed companies. Clay has the most ridiculous valuation, and I aspire to be them. They raised like $40 million at a $1.25 billion valuation. That's what, 2%, 1 or 2. I aspire to get that just stupid of a valuation one day.
That's, yeah, don't we all? Yeah, good for them. I think it's great. We love the Clay team. We're going to be doing more with them. We got some cool Clay stuff coming soon as well.
Oh, to be clear, I'm a proponent of Clay. I think those VCs have their head up their ass, but I'm a big proponent of Clay.
Yeah, the bet for them is winner take all. Nine times out of 10, power law says bet on the winner. That's where you're going to get your return. So I get it. It's maybe early to get that much money, or maybe they got a horse that's going to win, so we shall see.
Just what boggles my mind, if the investors want to return, they're saying it's going to be a $10 to $50 billion company, and it very well might, but that's a crazy bet.
Yeah, I think that the interesting thing, and sorry, I'd step in, I'll let you go. I guess the analysis would be, are they a next generation data provider, or are they going to become this like motherboard for the new stack, right? Whatever's emerging next, and they go like, well, that could be a $50 billion, that could be the outcome. I think where the question mark would emerge more is like, all right, can you break free from like a lot of the usage today is just it's a data marketplace, and like that's harder to see a path to like this crazy outcome.
Yes, but if they start providing their own data, they're going to piss off all of their integrations, and I think they're going to have an uphill battle. And more importantly, it's just like I was talking to somebody, I forget who it was. They have a Salesforce marketplace app, account planning. That's what it was. They have a Salesforce app exchange product for account planning. Salesforce came out with theirs. Their business is in shambles. That could happen to some of these, but I'm going to keep going down this path. So with your data, first of all, what kind of data do you have that I can't go get from Apollo?
So I guess to be clear, and maybe I should have presented things a little better. We're not leading with, we're not a data provider. We do have data, but we don't lead with that.
I'm talking on the intelligence side. You already found somebody. What am I going to see differently than I see on, the Apollo contact profile that tells me like the news and, crap like that?
Right. Well, what we're trying to do is like, all that data is only as valuable as like the perspective you have, meaning like what the hell you do, who it's for, again, like the problems they have, but like all these fun, it sounds kind of like esoteric, but it's like, this is the work, like every company, you need to have a hypothesis. Like we aren't for everybody. We are for a certain segment of the market for a specific reason. And like Octave is trying to help crystallize, at least in moment in time, right? Like it's a constantly evolving thing. Like your go-to-market is not this like fixed equation that you kind of like solve the riddle once and then it's set. Like it's always evolving, but like what we're trying to help you do is like, how do you look at that data with the perspective of like, all right, here are the personas we really care about. The people with these problems, they're going to have a higher propensity to like be interested in what we do, et cetera. So like we're trying to provide, at scale a way that the data could come from, the list could come from Apollo. We don't care. But like, how do we then synthesize those people and figure out like, all right, what's the unique, like, are all these people like qualitatively, are they a good fit? Like, all right, they might have firmographically fit into like, hey, healthcare and this revenue range and this employee band, blah, blah, blah. But like, we look at them and we go like, you're a healthcare staffing company. Like, that's not what we meant when we sell the healthcare, right? Like, there's all these kind of like intangibles that we're trying to help you take that next. Like, all right, if a good rep was like to look at, I guess that's the litmus test, right? If like one of your best reps was to like look at this account and go like, why are they a good fit? Why are they a bad fit? What are the characteristics? Like some of that will be like the kind of like hard numbers, but like a lot of it will be like, I kind of want to like look at them as this entity, this being. Are they a good fit for us? That's, again, I feel like I'm being fluffy here, but like that's the kind of what we're trying to help companies do at scale. How do you look at companies and people through like, this is how we view the.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. So, okay, I have this awesome messaging. First of all, if I go create 100 messages with you, how similar is kind of the format or the template? Are they completely abstract depending on the person? Are they going to have a general theme with obviously some wording flipped out? I assume it's more than merge fields, but tell me how different and dynamic are these messages?
We give you that control. They can be very similar. Like they can all share a spine and like you can pull the guardrails in a lot and be like, look, for some scenarios, that's the right thing to do. If the scenario is like, we're trying to get a campaign out and it's really about, hey, we're going to be at this event in Austin in 2 weeks from now, the degree of like personalization and persona specific value props and pain points might be less of the story. It might be like, we're just trying to tap you on the shoulder and like figure out if you're going to be somewhere we can say hi. So like there are times we're definitely like pulling in the guardrails, like it's better. You don't need it all, but yeah, we give you controls over that. And the like, the idea, like our mousetrap, if you will, like it's trying to go, the example I always use, because maybe it's like a simple one to understand. It's like, just imagine like you sold payroll software. I'm like, great, good news, infinite TAM, every business in the world we could sell to. And like, we want to talk to like HR, IT, and finance, right? Like those are kind of our key personas. We'll have some flavor of kind of the story and our capabilities. That's kind of like what we highlight for each of those personas. And we're helping you at that. But then like, where does it get more interesting would be like, okay, if you're reaching out to a retailer, right? And like, outside of the filters and the firmographics, like, oh, we know retailers relevant to payroll, you have much higher employee turnover. And like, you have many more like hourly versus salary waged employees. Like, that's probably like a part of the story that like, no matter which persona I'm talking to, like I should have that kind of weaved into the story, right? At least that kind of context and how I speak to you, right? Versus like, if I'm selling to a software business and I know it's the opposite, right? Like much lower turnover, everyone's salary, right? And so like, I'm probably getting off the track of your question, but it's like that's like what the type of variance we're trying to help with, right? Is like, how do we bring in these like unique to your business and who you are and the type of market you're in, and like these qualitative aspects that are like outside of the like, yeah, you got into this list at first because you met some of the entry criteria, but like the story that matters is beyond that. And like, that's what we're trying to like give you the muscle to do, because like you need to do that now. Like you can't get away with like generic, broad, open value prop, come chat with us. No one can.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. How does that change? So are people using you specifically for email? Are they also using you for when they cold call? Like what is best practice? How can somebody get the most bang for their buck?
I would say, look, meat and potatoes use case, like, not to say we don't do more. All of our customers use this for email, but we do a lot more and like increasingly other stuff as well. So could be LinkedIn messages, could be using us just for, you can think of this data we're producing. The end form factor is like, it could be an email, it could be fields in Salesforce that we're prepping a rep or an SDR. Like, hey, you're going to get on the phone. Like, here's 3 value props that you should talk about with this type of customer, right? And like, the brain is like doing some of that cognitive work for them up front. Hey, here's 3 discovery questions you should definitely ask because we know these things about this person. So like, there's lots of stuff like that you can do. We can help, again, when you're just doing list building, like we can be one of those, like in a clay table, an additional layer of like filtering and making sure we're qualifying correctly. Like, all right, we have high confidence that these are all like personas we really care about and we're going to have a story for, so like email, definitely, like that's the hit the vein with the dopamine right away. But then a lot of people are using our agents to do more sophisticated research, qualification, building other types of outputs you can imagine.
I think cold calls are coming back. Just as a side note,
Yeah.
Not many people are doing it anymore, and I find it is much easier. So I care about conversion rates more than I do scalability, right? You can send out 10,000 emails, and if they don't convert, who the hell cares? And I'm not saying that that's the case with your tool. Let's say that it increases my conversion rates drastically. But if I spend an hour making cold calls, connect with 3-4 people, and land 2 meetings, I think that's an hour or 2 well spent.
Yeah.
And when there's less noise, it's harder to get cell phones, although tools like mine, tools like, I'd say Apollo and Zoom Info, but I think they're kind of crappy. You can get cell phones, you can get people on the phone now, etc. I think cold calling's coming back, but using something like your messaging and reframing that cold call so it's very specific to that person could also do wonders as well.
Yeah.
Just my 2 cents.
I'm with you. I think it's kind of funny. There is like we're moving into this era where there's just so much attention right now, like to the tech and AI and automation. And like, I think there's going to be a bit of a like back to the future where some of the basics, some of like, how do you're going to have, guess what? AI isn't just like helping us in go to market. It's also helping your competitors like close every feature gap and every little sharp elbow you have to like differentiate. Like, the AI is going to be way better at like copying your code and all your little bells and whistles. Like, all that's going to go away. So like, how are you going to cut through the noise and like build trust with the market? Like, there are going to be some like, hey, guess what? Like, we're a company you can't get on the phone with and like talk to somebody. Like, I actually see like that will be something that like, I bet in the next year or 2, people will be like proud of. Right.
So I'm not going to name names. We were talking about this individual beforehand. I've taken many of their customers, one, because you can't reach them, period, like ever. They just hired, I think, their first sales rep ever, even though they claim to be an outbound company. And then number 2, I love when he posts his churn numbers and all this crap on his own company and gives me a complete arsenal of things to use, in my sales pitch. I love this, like, founder transparency or whatever they call it now. Building in public, that's it. I freaking love it. It gives me great benchmarks, tells me exactly what to do. I think it's fantastic to be on the receiving end of it. I think you're an idiot if you be transparent, but there's a fine line.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, everyone says LinkedIn, but where's the best place for people to connect and chat with you, man?
Oh, man, it is LinkedIn. I hate to say. Or, hey, Zach at octavehq.com. You'll get me. I read all the emails.
Now you're asking for cold pitches.
Bring it on. Love it.
Fair enough. Well, Zach, this is super helpful. We're in tangentially the same space.
Oh, we got some stuff to build together, man.
I can nerd out with you all day, but really appreciate you coming on, man.
And thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.